Words are powerful. They can build trust, heal wounds, and inspire greatness. But they can also become weapons. A careless insult, a harsh criticism, or an attempt to provoke you can steal your peace if you allow it. Most people believe that strength is measured by how quickly they can respond, how sharply they can argue, or how convincingly they can prove someone wrong. They think that if they remain silent for even a moment, they have already lost. But true strength follows a completely different path. Before you respond to the world around you, you must first respond to what is happening inside yourself. Every situation passes through your mind before it reaches your words. If your thoughts are filled with anger, fear, or pride, your response will carry those emotions with it. But if your mind is steady, your words will reflect wisdom instead of impulse. Every person faces moments when emotions rise without warning. Someone questions your abilities, insults your character, or dismisses your efforts. In those moments, your heartbeat becomes faster, your muscles tighten, and your mind begins preparing a response before you have even understood what was said. This is where most people lose control. They believe they are reacting to another person, when in reality they are reacting to their own emotions. The outside event is only the trigger. The real battle takes place within. Learning to master yourself means creating a small space between what happens and how you respond. That space may last only a few seconds, but it has the power to change everything. Instead of speaking immediately, you observe your emotions without allowing them to take control. You notice the anger, but you do not become the anger. You notice the frustration, but you refuse to let it decide your next action. This simple habit transforms your reactions into conscious choices rather than automatic impulses. People who lack self-control often spend their energy trying to control everyone else. They become upset when others disagree with them, criticize them, or refuse to meet their expectations. They believe peace will come once the world behaves the way they want. But the world has never worked that way. There will always be difficult people, unfair situations, and unexpected challenges. Waiting for everything outside yourself to become perfect is a lifelong disappointment. Real peace begins when you stop expecting others to manage your emotions for you. Self-mastery also requires honesty. It asks you to recognize your own weaknesses without becoming ashamed of them. Perhaps you are easily offended. Perhaps you seek approval from everyone around you. Perhaps criticism stays in your mind for days, while compliments disappear within minutes. These patterns cannot be changed by pretending they do not exist. They change only when you observe them with patience and the willingness to improve. Every moment of awareness becomes another step toward emotional freedom. When your mind becomes disciplined, you no longer feel the need to win every conversation. You stop seeing disagreements as personal attacks and begin seeing them as opportunities to practice patience. The opinions of others lose their power to disturb you because your sense of worth no longer depends on their approval. Confidence grows quietly from within, not from the applause of strangers or the outcome of arguments. A person who has mastered themselves carries a calm presence that cannot be shaken by every passing opinion, because they understand the greatest authority over their life is not found in controlling others, but in governing their own thoughts, emotions, and actions with unwavering discipline. Silence is often misunderstood. Many people assume that if you remain quiet during an argument, you are weak, afraid, or unable to defend yourself. Society teaches us that the quickest response is the strongest one, that every accusation deserves an answer, and that every insult must be challenged. Yet the people who possess the greatest inner strength understand something different. They know that silence is not the absence of power. It is the presence of control. It is the decision to remain steady when emotions invite you into a battle that serves no purpose. Whenever someone tries to provoke you, they are usually expecting a reaction. They want to see frustration in your face anger in your voice, or insecurity in your words, your emotional response becomes proof that they have influenced your state of mind. The moment you react impulsively, you hand over control of the situation. Your attention shifts away from wisdom and becomes trapped in defending your pride. But when you choose silence instead, you interrupt that cycle completely. The other person is left speaking into a space where their words no longer produce the effect they hoped for. Silence creates room for observation. Instead of rushing to defend yourself, you begin to notice the emotions rising within you. You become aware of the tightening in your chest, the urge to interrupt, and the thoughts demanding immediate revenge. Rather than obeying those impulses, you simply watch them. This quiet awareness weakens their influence. Emotions become easier to manage when you stop feeding them with instant reactions. A calm mind always sees more clearly than an agitated one. There are moments when words only make a difficult situation worse. One careless sentence leads to another, and soon a simple disagreement becomes a conflict neither person intended to create. Many relationships have been damaged, not because of the original problem, but because people refuse to stop speaking when silence would have protected both sides. Choosing not to answer immediately is not avoiding the truth. It is giving yourself enough space to respond with intention instead of impulse. Silence also reveals character. When someone continues attacking while you remain composed, observers begin to notice the difference between confidence and desperation. The louder one person becomes, the more obvious it is that they are struggling to control the conversation. The quieter person often appears stronger because they are not driven by the need to prove themselves. Real confidence has no urgency. It does not rush to convince everyone that it is right. It understands that dignity is preserved through restraint. Many of life's greatest mistakes begin with unnecessary words. A single angry sentence can destroy trust built over many years. A moment of uncontrolled speech can leave regrets that last far longer than the argument itself. Silence protects you from saying, and cannot be taken back. It gives wisdom enough time to arrive before emotion takes over. This is why disciplined people value pauses. They understand that every moment of quiet creates an opportunity to choose a better direction. Silence does not mean accepting disrespect or allowing others to walk over you. There are times when speaking is necessary, when boundaries must be established, and when truth deserves a clear voice. But those words carry far greater weight when they come from a peaceful mind rather than an angry one. A calm response is remembered longer than a loud reaction because it reflects inner stability instead of emotional chaos. The strongest silence is not empty. It is filled with patience, awareness, confidence, and the quiet certainty that not every battle deserves your attention. Criticism is something no one can completely avoid. No matter how honest you are, how hard you work, or how carefully you treat others, there will always be someone who questions your choices, doubts your abilities, or misunderstands your intentions. Many people spend their lives trying to escape criticism, believing that if they become successful enough or kind enough, negative opinions will disappear. But the truth is that criticism often grows alongside success. The more visible you become, the more opinions you attract. This is why learning to remain calm under criticism is not just a useful skill. It is an essential part of emotional maturity. When someone criticizes you, your first reaction is rarely logical. Your mind immediately begins searching for ways to defend itself. Your heart beats faster, your thoughts become scattered, and your attention shifts from understanding the situation to protecting your pride. This reaction is natural, but it is not always helpful. If you allow your emotions to take control, you may respond with anger, sarcasm, or harsh words that create an even bigger problem than the criticism itself. A calm mind recognizes this impulse without allowing it to become action. Not every criticism deserves the same response. Some people offer honest feedback, because they genuinely want to help you improve. Others criticize because they are frustrated, jealous, or carrying burdens that have nothing to do with you. If you react emotionally to every opinion, you give strangers the power to shape your peace. Wisdom begins when you learn to separate useful advice from unnecessary negativity. This requires patience, humility, and the willingness to listen before deciding how much value another person's words truly hold. Remaining calm does not mean believing every negative thing someone says about you. It means refusing to let another person's emotions determine your own. Imagine someone speaking harshly while you remain steady and attentive. Instead of interrupting, you listen carefully. Instead of preparing your defense, you focus on understanding their perspective. Even if you disagree, your calmness allows you to respond with clarity rather than emotion. In many situations, this alone changes the entire direction of the conversation. Criticism can also become one of your greatest teachers when approached with the right mindset. Every comment contains an opportunity to examine yourself honestly. Perhaps there is a small truth hidden within words that were delivered poorly. Perhaps there is a habit you have overlooked or a weakness that deserves attention. Strong people are not afraid to admit when they can improve. They understand that accepting constructive criticism is not a sign of weakness, but a sign of confidence. A fragile ego rejects every correction, while a disciplined mind welcomes opportunities to grow. It is also important to remember that people often judge you based on the limited part of your life they can see. They do not know your struggles, your sacrifices, or the quiet battles you fight every day. Their opinions are shaped by brief moments, incomplete information, and personal assumptions. Allowing those judgments to define your self-worth places your happiness in the hands of people who do not truly know you. Inner confidence develops when your identity comes from your values and actions, rather than the changing opinions of others. Calmness under criticism is built through practice, not perfection. Each difficult conversation becomes another chance to strengthen your patience. Every unfair accusation becomes an opportunity to choose discipline over impulse. Over time, you stop seeing criticism as a personal attack and begin seeing it as a test of your emotional balance. The louder the world becomes, the more valuable your inner stillness becomes. A person who remains composed in the face of judgment carries a quiet strength that cannot be borrowed from praise or taken away by criticism, because their peace rests on self-awareness, discipline, and the ability to remain steady when others expect them to lose control. One of the greatest mistakes people make is believing that they must defend themselves every time someone questions their value. They feel responsible for correcting every misunderstanding, answering every accusation, and proving their worth to everyone they meet. This constant need for validation slowly drains their energy. Instead of living according to their own principles, they begin living according to the expectations and opinions of others. Their peace becomes dependent on approval, and their confidence rises and falls with every compliment or criticism they receive. Your peace is far more valuable than your ego. The ego constantly demands attention. It wants to be recognized, admired, and proven right. It fears being ignored, corrected, or misunderstood. Whenever someone challenges your reputation or disagrees with your choices, the ego immediately urges you to fight back. It whispers that if you remain silent, people will think you are weak. It insists that every opinion must be answered and every insult must be defeated. But following the ego often leads to unnecessary conflict, endless arguments, and emotional exhaustion. Protecting your peace requires learning to recognize the difference between what truly matters and what simply hurts your pride. Not every disagreement is an attack on your character. Not every criticism deserves your attention. Sometimes people speak from their own frustrations, fears, or insecurities. Their words reveal more about their inner world than they do about yours. If you react to every careless comment, You allow other people's emotions to control your own. True freedom begins when you stop giving strangers that kind of influence over your life. Many people confuse confidence with the ability to win arguments. They believe that strength means always having the perfect response. But real confidence is much quieter. It does not feel threatened by every opposing opinion. It does not rush to prove itself, because it already knows its own value. A person who truly understands their worth does not waste time convincing those who have already decided not to understand them. Their actions speak more clearly than endless explanations ever could. There will always be people who misunderstand your intentions. Some will judge you without knowing your story. Others will criticize your decisions because they see life through a completely different perspective. Trying to change every opinion is impossible. No matter how carefully you explain yourself, there will always be someone who refuses to listen. Accepting this reality brings a surprising sense of peace. You stop chasing approval and begin focusing on living with integrity instead. Protecting your peace also means choosing your battles wisely. Some conversations deserve your attention because they strengthen relationships, solve problems, or bring greater understanding. Others exist only to satisfy someone's desire to argue or create conflict. Wisdom is knowing the difference. Every unnecessary argument consumes emotional energy that could have been invested in your goals, your family, your growth, or your well-being. Time and attention are limited resources, and disciplined people guard them carefully. Inner peace is not built by avoiding challenges, but by refusing to let every challenge disturb your balance. You can face criticism without becoming bitter. You can hear disagreement without becoming defensive. You can experience rejection without questioning your value. These abilities come from understanding that your identity is not determined by public opinion. It is shaped by your character, your principles, and the quiet decisions you make when no one is watching. The more you protect your peace, the less control other people have over your emotions. Their praise no longer makes you arrogant, and their criticism no longer makes you insecure. You begin to move through life with greater stability because your confidence is rooted within rather than borrowed from others. This quiet strength allows you to remain patient in difficult situations, humble during success, and composed in moments of conflict, while your energy stays focused on becoming a better person instead of proving that you already are. Life presents countless opportunities to argue, defend yourself, and prove that you are right. Every day, people encounter disagreements at work, within families, among friends, and even with complete strangers. In those moments, many believe that the person who speaks the loudest or wins the argument has achieved victory. But wisdom follows a different path. It understands that being right is not always the most important goal. Sometimes preserving peace, protecting relationships, and maintaining self-control are far greater achievements than winning a debate. Arguments often begin with small differences that grow larger because neither person is willing to step back. One harsh sentence invites another. Pride replaces understanding, and soon both sides become more interested in defeating each other than discovering the truth. At that point, the conversation no longer serves a meaningful purpose. It becomes a competition driven by ego instead of a search for understanding. Choosing wisdom means recognizing this shift before it consumes your attention and emotional energy. Wise people do not avoid conversations, nor do they remain silent because they lack confidence. They simply understand that not every disagreement deserves a battle. They ask themselves whether speaking will improve the situation or simply create more tension. Before responding, they consider the consequences of their words, rather than the temporary satisfaction of proving a point. This habit allows them to preserve both their dignity and their inner peace. Choosing wisdom over arguments also requires humility. Humility is not thinking less of yourself. It is thinking less about defending yourself all the time. It allows you to admit when you are mistaken without feeling diminished. It allows you to learn from others without seeing every correction as an attack on your identity. People who possess humility understand that growth is impossible if they believe they already know everything. Every conversation becomes an opportunity to gain insight rather than a chance to protect their pride. Many conflicts continue because people listen only to reply instead of listening to understand. While the other person is speaking, their mind is already preparing counterarguments, searching for flaws and waiting for an opportunity to interrupt. Wisdom chooses a different approach. It listens carefully, not because it always agrees, but because understanding another perspective creates clarity. Even when two people continue to disagree, genuine listening reduces hostility and opens the door to respectful communication. Another sign of wisdom is the ability to remain calm when others lose control. Anger has a way of spreading quickly from one person to another. One raised voice often leads to another. One insult invites a harsher response. But when one person refuses to participate in that emotional chain, the entire atmosphere begins to change. Calmness interrupts conflict before it grows larger. It allows reason to remain present when emotions threaten to take over. There are also moments when wisdom means accepting that you cannot change someone's mind. Some people hold tightly to their beliefs, regardless of evidence or explanation. Continuing to argue with them only creates frustration for everyone involved. Recognizing this truth is not surrender, it is maturity. You stop wasting energy trying to force understanding where there is no willingness to listen. Instead, you direct your attention toward actions that bring real progress and personal growth. The strongest people are often those who no longer feel compelled to win every discussion. Their confidence does not depend on having the final word. They understand that respect cannot be demanded through arguments, and truth does not become stronger because it is shouted more loudly. By choosing wisdom over conflict, they develop patience, clarity, and emotional balance. Their words become more thoughtful, their presence becomes more peaceful, and their decisions become guided by purpose rather than pride, allowing every response to reflect discipline instead of impulse, and every conversation to become an expression of inner strength rather than a contest for victory. Walking away is one of the most misunderstood forms of strength. Many people believe that leaving an argument means giving up, admitting defeat, or allowing someone else to win. They assume that courage is found only in standing your ground and continuing the fight until the very end. But true courage is often much quieter. It is the ability to recognize when a conversation has stopped being productive and to choose peace over pointless conflict. Walking away is not an escape from reality. It is a conscious decision to protect your time, your energy, and your inner balance. Every argument demands something from you. It takes your attention, your emotions, and your mental focus. The longer it continues, the more it drains your ability to think clearly. What begins as a simple disagreement can slowly consume an entire day, leaving you replaying conversations in your mind long after they have ended. You think about what you should have said, how you could have responded differently, or how unfair the other person was. Meanwhile, your goals remain untouched, your work is delayed, and your peace slips further away. Walking away prevents this unnecessary loss before it grows into something much larger. Not every person wants understanding. Some people only want victory. They are not interested in listening, learning, or finding common ground. Their goal is to provoke, dominate, or prove themselves right regardless of the facts. In these situations, continuing the conversation rarely produces anything meaningful. The more you explain, the more determined they become to disagree. Wisdom recognizes this pattern early. Instead of becoming trapped in an endless cycle of frustration, it quietly steps away without allowing pride to take control. Walking away also requires confidence. People who constantly seek approval often feel obligated to defend themselves against every accusation. They fear that silence will be mistaken for weakness or that leaving will damage their reputation. But a person who truly knows their worth does not depend on the opinions of strangers to define their value. They understand that character is revealed through consistent actions, not through endless debates. They are comfortable allowing others to misunderstand them because they refuse to sacrifice their peace for temporary validation. There is also a difference between avoiding responsibility and choosing distance. Walking away does not mean ignoring problems that require honest communication. Important relationships deserve thoughtful conversations, and real conflicts sometimes need to be addressed with patience and respect. But when the discussion turns into personal attacks, endless blame, or emotional manipulation, continuing often serves no useful purpose. Knowing when to stay and when to leave is a sign of maturity that develops through self-awareness and experience. One of the greatest forms of discipline is resisting the urge to have the last word. The ego constantly whispers that one more sentence will finally prove your point, yet that final sentence often creates another response, then another and another. What could have ended peacefully becomes a prolonged conflict, simply because neither person was willing to stop. Walking away breaks that cycle. It demonstrates that your self-control is stronger than your desire to win. Every step away from unnecessary conflict is a step toward a more focused life. The energy you save can be invested in your health, your family, your work, and your personal growth. Instead of carrying the weight of meaningless arguments, you carry a calmer mind and a clearer sense of purpose. Your attention returns to the things that truly matter, rather than remaining trapped in moments that cannot change your future. The strongest people understand that life is too valuable to spend fighting every battle, and they choose their path with quiet confidence, preserving their dignity, protecting their peace, and allowing their actions to speak where endless words no longer have any value. Life will always place difficult people in your path. Some will criticize you. Some will underestimate you. Some will try to provoke you simply because they cannot control themselves. You cannot choose everyone's behavior, but you can always choose your response. That choice shapes your character. Remember these 7 responses: silence. You may be right. Ask one calm question. Refuse to defend your worth. Smile peacefully. I understand your perspective. Walk away. These are not techniques for defeating others. They are habits for mastering yourself. Because true strength is not measured by how many arguments you win. It is measured by how much peace you keep. The loudest person in the room often seeks attention. The calmest person in the room already possesses something far more valuable. Protect it. Nurture it. And let your calm become the answer that no argument can overcome.